Harry's Wife, Part 102.79. How would she respond to Harry cheating? Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Well, news has emerged because the gloves are very much off with regard to the media's relationship, or most of its relationship with Harry's wife. And appearing in Markle, an article states, Prince Harry allegedly cheated on Harry's wife, who is Sarah Ann Macklin. Prince Harry is believed to have had an affair with model Sarah Ann Macklin while dating his current wife, Harry's wife. Angela Levin, who wrote Prince Harry's biography, revealed that Harry and Macklin began talking after meeting at a private party. This quick romance took place just after Harry met Harry's wife, whom he married 4 years ago in St. George's Chapel at Windsor Castle in the United Kingdom. During the very early stages of his relationship with Harry's wife, Harry was thought to have gone on dates with Burberry model Sarah Ann Macklin, Levin said. They met at a private party. He took her number and bombarded her with texts. But it turned out to be just a fling. A friend said, they go on but are quite different. She is very clean living and barely drinks, and in that respect they were on a different wavelength. Harry was a bit non-committal. There has been some confusion, too, about whether or not Harry's wife had at the time broken up with her boyfriend of 2 years, celebrity chef Corey Vitiello. While Prince Harry and Harry's wife have 2 kids and live in the United States, Sarah Ann Macklin continues with her career as a model and a nutritionist. She is also an influencer, sharing tips for a healthy lifestyle on social media. Despite some bumps along their relationship, the pair seem as strong as ever, with Harry's wife admitting recently that Harry saved her by finding her a therapist. Yada yada repeats what we've learned from archetypes. This is also picked up in Meow.com and other places, talking about the fact that Harry reportedly had an affair with Sarah Ann Macklin, again quoting the sources Angela Levin, and talks about how their lifestyles were not particularly close, that they didn't really sort of come together in that regard. So what has gone on here? Well, first of all, this does throw somewhat into interesting focus the comment of Prince Harry that he was smitten from the very off. Is this something that he said afterwards in order to ensure that he doesn't get the electric cattle prods applied to his bollocks, engaging in his own revision of history? Naturally, if there's a possibility of him suffering a form of devaluation, and remember, it was the case that Harry's wife gate crashed, as we understand it, the Inskep wedding, in order basically to draw Harry back in. If, having witnessed that kind of behaviour, he thought during the engagement interview it was better to say, oh yeah, I was absolutely smitten with her from the beginning, in order to keep her on the level and appease her, then he may well have done so, even though he didn't actually think it. Or it could have been, of course, that whilst he was smitten, he didn't necessarily know that she felt the same way, and that he might have thought, well, she's still in a relationship, so don't want to get hurt too early, keeping options open, go out for some drinky poos with Sarah Ann Macklin also. So it could be that from Harry's perspective, that he was kind of dating both of them at the same time because there was no exclusivity, and it was at such an early juncture. And of course, what was described as a fling with Sarah Ann Macklin never went any further than that. It doesn't appear to be the case that Harry was immediately in a committed relationship with Harry's wife, so that he was then cheating on her, and therefore to suggest that that was what was really going on is really pushing it. However, from Harry's wife's perspective, of course, the fact that if she knew that there was a rival, and it would be apparent that she didn't, is a problem. Because, of course, she is allowed, in those early stages, of course, to date whoever she wants. Remember, before that person is embedded as the intimate partner primary source, they may be an intimate partner secondary source of a shelf variety, dirty little secret, or the candidate intimate partner, secondary source, where the narcissist goes for hell for leather to bind that person to them. But even during that stage, the narcissist could see other people. It's not seen as a form of devaluation. It's quite simply keeping options open. Naturally, the narcissism will lead the narcissist to behave in a way of keeping that more or less under wraps, unless you're dealing with lessers, so as not to derail the pursuit of each prospect. And some narcissists could have 2, 3, 4 prospects at this stage, like horses in a race, and the narcissist swapping from one to the other dependent upon how easy they are to control, how good their fuel is, how good their character traits and residual benefits are, until settling on one, who then becomes embedded as the intimate partner primary source. When that embedding happens, you get the golden period, and at that juncture, the narcissist will not cheat on that intimate partner primary source. That will only happen when you get into the sustained devaluation. From Harry's perspective, he thought dating a couple of ladies here, maybe he was smitten with her, maybe he wasn't. The fact is, it was at the very early stages, and most people would look at it and say, well, they weren't in a committed relationship at that point, so you wouldn't really regard it as cheating. However, from Harry's wife's perspective, she, with her sense of entitlement, is allowed at that juncture to be seeing other people because he's not been embedded as the IPPS, but he wouldn't be allowed to. Because whilst she's allowed to see other people, he can't. Because if he's seeing other people, that of course threatens his ability to be controlled by her and offends that narcissistic need for control. Accordingly, she could have had various options. For instance, still be with the chef and devaluing him, maybe running around as the alleged puck bunny that she was, seeking out other people, and at the same time focusing on Prince Harry. But if she had learned that he was dating somebody else at the time, then there would be considerable concerns because it would offend her need for control. It would appear that she was unaware of this taking place, probably because she was in Toronto and he was in London. Now, if she's only learning of it now through news sources, then of course it's a threat to control. And Harry will be given further devaluing behaviours. He'll be in that chicken coop. The electric cattle prods will be coming forward and causing those pink pods of his to become the pink pancakes. He'll be accused of all sorts, and even though he will protest, but we weren't a couple at that juncture, darling. You were still with the chef. Doesn't matter. Completely irrelevant in the world of the narcissist. He has offended her sense of control with the suggestion that he don't have complete eyes for her. And even though this is many moons ago, and the fact is he's now married to her, that is irrelevant again. The bringing up of this incident, where he was seeing somebody else or suggested as seeing somebody else when he was seeing her, will be an offence to her sense of control in the now, which she will have to deal with by devaluing Harry to punish him for this, and, of course, ignoring anybody else that talks about it or shouting them down. What if Harry would now be the one that started cheating whilst they're married, not at the very early embryonic stage of their relationship, but if they were to do so, if he was to do so now? Empathic individuals do cheat. The reason for it, the diminution of their empathic traits as a consequence of the external stressor, usually one of two things. Either they're being abused by a narcissist, and therefore their emotional empathy for their abuser is reduced, and they look outside of the relationship, and or they're in a relationship with a non-narcissist, and along comes a narcissist, and their addiction takes over, causing their emotional empathy to be reduced for their partner, and therefore they cheat with the external narcissist. Sometimes they could be caught by two. I have consulted with people who were in a relationship with a narcissist, being abused, their emotional empathy was reduced for them, and they got caught unwittingly by a second narcissist. So there was a double whammy of the reduction of their emotional empathy because of the abuse, and a reduction of their emotional empathy as a consequence of their addiction to the next narcissist coming along. So Harry, conceivably, could cheat now because he's being abused and devalued, and therefore his emotional empathy for his wife is reduced, and he gets sick of it, and that it causes him to look elsewhere for solace, for comfort, for some sanctuary to escape what's being subjected to. But how would Harry's wife react were she to find out that the Prince of Pink Pancakes was playing Hide the Sausage and Pounding the Punani Pavement Elsewhere? Well, of course, all hell would break loose. But in order to give you a detailed breakdown, I'm now going to segue this video with Cheating on the Narcissist, which explains to you how the various types of narcissists would respond to learning that they're being cheated on. It's great information, very detailed, and remember, Harry's wife is a mid-range narcissist, mid-range. I haven't told you whether she's A or B yet, but she's mid-range, so you'll be able to listen out during this segued video to understand how further she would react should she learn that Harry was cheating right now. Here we go. Cheating on the narcissist. I know, who would do such a thing? But it does happen. Not often, but it does. How do we react to this, in case it was something that you were considering doing? To begin with, it's worthwhile explaining, however, just how rare it is to find that our victims are willing to cheat on us. There are several reasons for this. 1. During the seduction period, there is absolutely no reason to do so. This is exciting, wonderful, love at its apparent finest, and because of this golden period, cheating on this supposedly amazing person who has come into your life would be like cutting off your right arm. Pointless. 2. The empathic traits of honesty, compassion, decency, etc. mean that cheating is ordinarily anathema to the victim. 3. The empathic traits of being a love devotee and someone who believes in fixing and healing means that the victim would rather address the problems in the mistaken belief that they can be cured with the narcissist than go elsewhere. 4. The desire to return to the golden period means that the victim doesn't want to do anything whereby they will lose our kind. Instead, they want to cling on in the hope of matters improving. 5. Many empathic individuals subscribe to the concept of 2 wrongs don't make a right. 6. Being a truth seeker, the empathic victim finds themselves unable to contemplate behaving in a deceitful manner through cheating, no matter how tempting it might be. These factors all militate against the victim cheating on the narcissist. Nevertheless, on the rare occasions it does happen, what is the reaction of each school of narcissist? As you should have anticipated, the revelation of you being unfaithful to us threatens our control. If we find out from somebody else, your action has wounded us. If you tell us, you provide us with challenge fuel. Your lack of fidelity, you being unfaithful, you cheating, tells us in no uncertain terms that you prefer somebody else to us, that you regard somebody else as superior to us. You are the intimate partner primary source, and as such, you belong to us. Yes, we, through our sense of entitlement and lack of accountability, will do as we please, but you are not allowed to do so. This is the hypocrisy, although, of course, a lesser and mid-range narcissist won't see that because of the blinding effect of their narcissism and the compartmentalization. The greater and the ultra will recognize such hypocrisy but doesn't care about it. We are, indeed, hugely hypocritical as we commit numerous acts of infidelity, but you're not allowed to. Any external observer, though reluctant to sanction such a transgression, would undoubtedly understand why the victim has done so, given the onslaught of abuse perpetrated by our kind. That, of course, is no excuse or reason in our world, because either the narcissism excludes that as having had happened, meaning that there is the revision of history, or we know that we've done it, but it was justified. It was your fault. You made us do it. Your lack of love, sex, putting out, etc. caused us to have to go and do this, whereas your infidelity is entirely your fault and nothing to do with us. A normal person would be upset and would most likely have cause to wonder why the other person has behaved in such a manner. Leaving aside instances where a person is dealing with a narcissist who is unfaithful, ordinarily the cuckolded individual will wonder why this has happened. Is there something deficient in the relationship? Have I done something wrong? Is there something that needs to be addressed and resolved? Not us. From our perspective, You should be kneeling before us on a daily basis and giving thanks for being chosen by us to be our intimate partner primary source. For you to be unfaithful and cheat on us creates a huge wound. We are made to feel worthless, inferior, and desperate. You have acted against us. You have operated outside of our control, and you have threatened it considerably. All of the matters which appertain to the need for control, status, omnipotence, power, have been eroded by your behaviour. You are a traitor, a base and venal traitor who has been corrupted by some outside and interfering agent. You have thrown everything that we have done back in our faces. Of course, we conveniently forget everything that we have done to you, and we hate you for it. You become painted black. Such an act is one which will ignite our fury where wounded, as we are now desperate to require fuel to heal the huge wound that you have caused. This is no minor abrasion. This is a savage and deep strike which threatens to topple us. Lesser narcissists will respond in a furious display of heated, ignited fury. You, where dealing with a lower lesser and a middle lesser and possibly upper lesser type B, will be physically attacked and beaten. You will be forced to identify who the other party is, and as the lesser of our kind drinks in the fuel from your tears and terror, it won't be enough. He or she will seek out the other party and assault them as well. They are as guilty as you. Even the upper lesser type A could be moved to commit violence in such circumstances, notwithstanding the fact that the upper lesser type A runs around shagging anything that moves. They will not be bound by their hypocrisy. The response is harsh, direct, and vitriolic. Property will be destroyed, windows put through, car tyres slashed, rooms wrecked, as the lesser spirals out of control as a consequence of this ignited fury. He or she becomes a frenzied whirlwind, which will kick out at anybody and everybody around them, but most of all, you. Cheating on a lesser carries with it a considerable risk of serious physical injury, even, in certain instances, death, as there is such a loss of control, which cannot, in that instant, be regained. The extent of the wounding is so substantial that the fuel demand rockets. You can be expected to be beaten unconscious, and for the lesser to wait until you have regained consciousness to then assault you again. This brutality will be sustained and is wide-ranging. It is only when fuel has been obtained from you and others that the lesser's inferno-like range will abate, and control is asserted once again. The lesser is likely to then depart and seek out an intimate partner tertiary source, such as a prostitute, or one of the stable of the intimate partner secondary sources, an ongoing prospect, or find one. As, since you're painted black, punishment will be meted out at you by the narcissist having sex with somebody else. The narcissist will return, and if you have not made good your escape by this point, your infidelity will be used as a stick with which to beat you, both figuratively and literally, on a repeated basis, because thereafter, whilst you remain painted black, looking upon you reminds the narcissist of your infidelity and the threat to control that you have caused. The mid-range narcissist will also lose control on learning of your infidelity. Whereas the lesser will adopt an all-out assault, the mid-ranger will alternate between attacking you and wanting you to feel guilty. He will want to talk the matter through as he struggles to comprehend how someone could do this to him after everything that he has done. He will keep you up all night as he takes an almost masochistic delight in cross-examining you about every detail of what has happened. He will want to know who. He will want to know what this person does, where you met, how many times you fucked, whether the sex was good or not, did you use protection, why did you do it, why he is not good enough. The questions will be like machine gun fire, spat at you as he forces you to explain yourself. He will weep. He will slap you. Lower mid-range is likely to use more sustained physical violence against you. Middle mid-rangers and upper mid-range will also be moved to violence. Middle mid-rangers possibly in terms of shoving, pushing, grabbing, slapping. Upper mid-rangers may well dole out a beating. The mid-ranger will provide you with a litany of his good points, rejecting any suggestion of his failings being a catalyst for what you have done, and then spit at you. He will tell you that you should leave, but he will not do it because he wants you to suffer. He wants you to look on his apparently heartbroken face and feel guilt, and boy, does he know that you do guilt. The narcissist that his mid-range instinctively knows that guilt will be at the forefront of your response, and he instinctively desires to relish in your discomfort, your heartfelt remorse, as he gains fuel from your support, your upset, your sympathy, and your apologies, all of which signal to providing you with the need to submit to the mid-range narcissist control once again. Ever the attention seeker from the crowd, you can expect the mid-ranger to call your parents, your friends, your colleagues, and anybody else he can think of to tell them about what you have done. He will stand on the telephone as he declares how hard hit he is by your awful behaviour, and you will listen. He will organise a crisis committee and ensure several people immediately come to the house as you are put on trial again. He will relish in receiving the sympathy of others and the downcast looks as shame washes over you. No matter how justified you might have felt at seeking the attentions of another, the mid-ranger will keep at you until you break and sobbing wail out your sorrow. The mid-ranger will use this as evidence of you being a sex addict, that there is something wrong with you, and insist that you attend a doctor or go to therapy to address this. He will not cast you aside, as he wants you to suffer for your crime. He won't confront the person that you're with. After all, he's too much of a coward to do so, but will rather ensure that your fidelity is continually used as a method of control. Thus, if you slept with a neighbour, you have to move house. If it is a friend, you will see him no more, and none of the associated social circle. You're placed on a curfew, not being allowed to go out for months on end in a social sense. If a colleague, you must move jobs. The mid-ranger will want you to work at repairing the marriage or relationship, but of course he or she will never address their faults. Not at all. It will all be about making you improve. The greater or the ultra is likely to know about your infidelity before you admit it. Our extensive desire to control and our reliance on monitoring your movements through technology and our network of spying lieutenants means that there will be the compilation of a dossier of information. In such an instance, where the greater or ultra, aided by our own sense of paranoia, has suspicions, we will be able to keep control of the ignited fury, and once we have learned of what you have done, we will choose the appropriate moment to respond, to punish you for what you have done. If, and usually the greater, has not realised, and you confess, then in such instances the greater will not be able to control the ignited fury either. He will erupt, and it is in this rare instance that the greater is likely to use physical or sexual violence against his intimate partner primary source. The significant and substantial wounding that occurs tips the greater over the edge, and what it is not so much the act itself, but the fact that he didn't realise it was happening, and he ought to have done so. The greater's sense of being all-knowing and all-powerful is mortally wounded by your behaviour, and this is just as bad as the fact that you have sought solace in the arms of another. His usual substantial control will be lost, and his malicious fury will be vented against you. You are likely to be attacked and then ejected from the property. All attempts to mollify him, to apologise, to try and make things right will be rejected. He will need a fierce burst of fuel from this one explosion, and once it has been received, he will assert his control again. From that point, he does not need fuel from you. Indeed, you are now persona non grata. He will disengage from you and turn to another, embedding the prospective primary source as quickly as possible in a show of defiance, but it won't end there. You will be subjected to malign hoovers as you are punished. The greater or the ultra doesn't want you. You are soiled goods, tarnished, but you will not be allowed to forget what you have done, and thus you will be smeared and subjected to a vicious campaign of malign hoovers. If the greater or ultra has worked out what you are up to before you confess, our delight at gathering this information, and thus reinforcing our cunning, guile and superiority, means we are able to maintain control. Instead, we plot and we plan. We will be quietly smearing you behind the scenes. We will be scheming to unveil your infidelity and to shame you. It is likely that we will use your birthday, an anniversary, or an impromptu get-together with friends and family so that we can have a grand audience for your execution. We will strike when you least expect it, and the evidence that we have acquired, and we will go to considerable lengths to obtain it, will be unveiled on the big screen to all assembled. Thus, hidden video footage of you giving a blowjob to your paramour in the house you shared with the narcissist will be shown. A slideshow of the texts you pinged back and forth will be compiled after your phone was breached. A recording of your conversations will be replayed and suitably edited to make you sound even worse to all of those who are gathered. You'll be shamed on a huge scale. As the tears of shame trickle down your face, the greater and the ultra will revel in your downfall and the shocked and disgusted reactions of all around you. He will cement the facade and have you cast as the whore, the scarlet woman, the ungrateful bitch, the one who couldn't keep it in his trousers. Try pinning the blame on the greater and the ultra when all your family and friends have witnessed 2 minutes of you being pounded by the neighbour on the marital bed. You haven't got a chance. Following this shaming, you'll be disengaged. A new primary source already primed and waiting in the wings. And then the malign Hoover campaign will begin, aided and abetted by our coterie, our lieutenants, and the now converted and disgusted third parties. You receive the equivalent of being tarred and feathered. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.